Welcome to the Maltepes Show. My name is Matt Maltepes. I'm joined by the legendary coach Phil Martelli. He coached St. Joe's basketball for 24 years with a 444 and 328 record. You made the NCAA tournament 7 times, 6-time regular season champion, 3-time conference tournament champion, and you've coached some great players, guys like Rashid Bey to NBA players like DeAndre Bembry, Langston Galloway, Charlie Brown. You had a 30-2 season, right? Remarkable
right.
season, 03-04. And that's the season where you guys made a spectacular run into the Elite Eight, right? And that's, I think, the deepest run that St. Joe's has ever made, not counting the 1961, which is, there's a whole bunch of stuff around that. But on that team, you had some spectacular players: Jameer Nelson, Delonte West, Dwayne Jones, some very, very good NBA players. And Nelson was an All American. You were a 4-time A10 Coach of the Year. You won AP Coach of the Year, Naismith Coach of the Year, and many more awards. So when I say all of this to you, right, what are your thoughts reflecting on this incredible career you had?
Matt, I really appreciate this opportunity to be with you. And as you were so kind to do that introduction and talk about all those spectacular players and records and awards, here's what I took away: memories and relationships. So things didn't end well at St. Joseph's, disappointing for, for, for myself and for my family. I feel like I let down assistant coaches, their families, staff, their families, such loyal fans. Um, but now that I've been away and had the chance to go to Michigan, when people would say to me, "What was it? What was the most special thing about your tenure at St. Joseph's?" And I say, memories and relationships. And some of those memories are bad. I mean, some of them are bad, a tough loss or a disappointing situation in recruiting. Uh, but the memories will never uh, dissipate. And the relationships, I measure those relationships with the number of phone calls and how the phone calls end with former players, with recruits that I didn't get. And you have grown men and saying to each other at the end of a phone call, "I love you." That's a
That's
special
amazing.
relationship.
That is special. So tell me some of the amazing memories that you remember and relationships,
Well,
if you'd like.
the memories to me, the Palestra. I mean, anybody in Philadelphia, I get chills right now thinking about games in the Palestra. I think about games in the Palestra when I was a kid playing for St. Joe's Prep. When I was a player at Widener College, we played at the Palestra, and being able to coach in the Palestra and walk out there and seeing so many people, and the noise always just blew me away in the building. I can remember games that were sold out and being able to look around and see a face, and a face would trigger a memory from, oh, there's a grade school friend, or there's a high school friend, or man, that I met that guy at a community talk that I gave. Uh, just the biggest memory, though, is the smiles on people's faces, thinking about what you did. Now, not what I did, but what we did as a team in the greatest of years and sometimes in the subpar years. But people would meet you and greet you with a smile. That's a memory that'll never leave me. And then the relationships, I could go on and on. I can go back to players that I coached at Bishop Kenrick High School when I was 23 years old, and I didn't know what I was doing. I really didn't know what I was doing. And then I grew into it, and I grew into it. And you have just special relationships with guys who were really just 5 and 6 years younger than I was, and I was coaching them. And to be to their weddings, to be there in times of grief, they lose a parent, they lose a job, to be thought of in that kind of that's a real relationship.
More than coaching.
Yes, exactly right. That's a real relationship. When people can come to you at their highest of highs and their lowest of lows, that's a real relationship.
It's real.
That's real. There's a lot out there, as you well know. You're a young guy, but you already noticed that there's a lot out there that's fake. It's by a phone, it's by text, or, oh yeah, I talked to them.
Yeah.
Well, did you really, or did you text with them? Right?
Yeah.
So,
I'm not a fan of text messages.
right. So the the specialness of the relationships being with you when you're at your highest and when you're lowest. And that's what I've always considered to be one of my strengths. I want to be considered a people person. And a people person is there for you at the best of times and the worst of times.
Yeah, you go through the struggles with each other, you go through the highs with each other, no matter what, even if it's a roller coaster, that's how I see it. And that's, kind of how I try, I think of myself as well, and think of like my relationships. I believe, you need to have that realness. As you talked about the BS, all of that, none of that stuff matters. And we talked about this a little bit beforehand as well. But all right, so I have a question. Growing up, what were some of your motivations
Mhm.
to get into coaching and get into the sports world? What are some things that really pushed you? Was there a certain moment where it's like, well, this is what I really want to do?
And that's a great, great question. First, I start with knowing that I wanted to be engaged with people. So there was a point in time when I thought about law school and I thought about politics because despite the world that, or not as the world is today
Mhm.
with all this vitriol, um, I really thought that you could make a difference. And isn't that what we're all charged to do? Why don't we make a difference in our families, make a difference in our communities, and then we make a difference in our area, and then it gets bigger and bigger. So I thought about law school and politics being branching off from law school after that accomplishment, right? Graduating from law school, and I moved. I moved from Southwest Philadelphia, where I would affectionately be known as a playground rat. I went to St. Barnabas, and then I went to Finnegan Playground. And when it was spring and summer, I played baseball, and then it was fall, and until it got too cold that you couldn't be outside, you played football. And then if we were lucky enough to sneak into a gym, we played basketball. But I wasn't really basketball centric until I moved to Lansdowne, Delaware County, and I met three guys.
How old were you at the time when you
I
moved to
was
Lansdowne?
going into the seventh grade, so about 12 or 13, probably 12 years old. And I met three guys when I was moved to Lansdowne, Delaware County. One was a mailman by the name of John Steele. One was a banker by the name of Tom Gallagher. One was a local politician by the name of Pete O'Keefe. And they coached seventh and eighth grade CYO basketball at St. Philomena's. And I tried out for the team and I made the team and I was one of the better seventh graders. But I was fascinated. I was fascinated by the ability of these three guys from the neighborhood, old heads, so to speak, right? And they got us all to push in the same direction to pursue a championship,
Common goal.
a common goal. And I was blown away. And this game captured me because I didn't see it as I saw basketball, I still see it today as a great societal experiment because it doesn't matter if you're black or white. It doesn't matter if you're from Washington Township or you're from Delaware County or if you're from Scranton or you're from Harrisburg. It doesn't matter. If you can go on the court and you're willing to share the ball and you're willing to dribble, pass, shoot, and guard your player, doesn't matter if you're male or female.
Yeah.
It used to be that we could go wherever we wanted. We could go to a park. Now I just feel for these young because it's not safe out there.
It's not.
But
Crime's up, everything's up.
right, to have that chance to be on a court and to pursue a championship, it's what drove me. And then in the eighth grade, we had a great team when I was in seventh grade. We had a tremendous team when I was in the eighth grade. And then I went to St. Joe's Prep and I played there. And every coach that I came in contact with, Eddie Burke, who was a teacher coach at St. Joe Prep, Fred Douglas was a Fairmount Park guard, policeman, and coached us. and then be able to play. So all of my influences on what I wanted to do started in the schoolyard at St. Philomena's with Tom Gallagher, John Steele, and Pete O'Keefe, and every coach that has touched me. But I do expand that to say every teacher that I watched and I was treated with respect, so therefore I understood that respect was really important. I understood that each day you needed to learn something new, whether it was on the court or off the court. So all those teachers and all those coaches, but the best teacher coaches that I've ever seen, my mother and father.
So tell me about your mother and father then.
Well, my mother was a stay-at-home mom for a long time. I had 6 brothers and sisters, so I was the oldest of 7. Uh, and then when I got into maybe middle of high school, my mother decided to work. So she was a waitress. She was a waitress at the hotel at Penn. She was a waitress for a catering service in Delaware County. And she was very quiet, a ferocious reader. I have recollections. I have recollections of my mother walking my sisters and I to the library in the summer every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday. We had a library card. We went every Tuesday. We got books. And a love of reading came from my mother. She's really quiet. My father was unbelievable work ethic. He was a chemist assistant, almost like the Dwight Schrute in the office. Like he was not a chemist. He was not an assistant chemist. He was a right,
Assistant manager.
right. He was a chemist assistant at DuPont on
Wow.
Grays Ferry,
Wow.
Grays Ferry Avenue, and he would leave that job and come home, and he would work at Misericordia Hospital in West Philadelphia. He was filed their bills. He sold tickets for the Phillies, the Eagles, the 76ers, and doing all that and raising, 5, 6, 7 children. My father never missed a game. Never missed a game that I was in grade school. Never missed a game when I was in high school. Never missed a game when I was in college at Widener. And what I watched them do is to respect everybody. Skin color didn't matter. Where you came from didn't matter. Your last name didn't matter. Your grade point average or your points per game. I am blessed beyond any words that I could express to have watched my mother and father without knowing it. They didn't call themselves teachers. They didn't call themselves coach. They called themselves mom and dad, and they were spectacular at that job.
That's amazing to hear because, first of all, I believe in the same thing. I think when there's such beauty in being able for people to come together for a common goal, regardless of race, religion, creed, what doesn't matter, right? And we all come together, put our minds together to achieve this common goal, and it just shows that we can all come together on other issues as well.
No question. No
And
question.
something I want to touch on is you talked about your mom and dad, how they're the best teachers to you. And I feel the same way for me, right? With my mother and dad. My dad, like, you talked about very hard work ethic, was able to do all that and provide for the family. And my mother, she was the best mom. She taught me values. Always say my father taught me value. My mother taught me values.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm
So
stealing that one.
go ahead. Trust me. I didn't trademark. There's no copy patent on it. But yeah, I thought I loved hearing about that. I just want to say that because it reminds me of me. You know what I mean? A little bit, my upbringing. And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my upbringing,
Amen.
And I wouldn't have it any other way. So, all right, I have some other questions. So, we have NIL, huge change in the sports world. So, recently, Nick Saban, legendary coach Alabama, he came out and said that NIL has been detriment to college sports and that, I quote, all the things that I believed in for all these years, 50 years of coaching, no longer exists in college athletics. Do you share that same sentiment? Or are you on the opposite side of the fence?
No, I'm not as harsh as Nick Saban. And and I'm not picking at his words, but I would say this: forever and ever and ever, it was transformational. This work of college athletics, even high school athletics, was transformational. I could have an impact on a young person's life, and I could have an impact on somewhat their value system. Not everyone. I wasn't going to be successful all the time, nor was Nick Saban going to be successful all the time. But when Nick Saban talks about his final meetings with his team, and players are talking to him not about even playing time or improving, they're talking to him about how much money they can make, it's not the same game. So what it's become is transactional, and that is bothersome because being involved in athletics, being involved in any activity in high school or in college should be well rounding your education. And there's not a coach out there, not a coach out there, not Nick Saban, not Gino Auriemma, not Phil Martelli, not Fran Dunphy, not Jay Wright. Yeah, the players, that's great. The players are great. They provide a service to the school, to the alumni, to the area that the school is in. It's a tremendous service. And for a very long time, it was, be satisfied. You're getting a free education, you're getting sneakers, and you're getting that kind of thing. So to have NIL come in, terrific idea. However, Matt, what they did is they put you in a car. They told you you could drive as fast as you want. There's the destination. And by the way, there's no speed limit. There's no brakes on your car, and there's no seatbelt. Good luck getting there.
Could get in an accident. Yeah.
Right, right. And so now we're in a situation where we're giving 19-year-old kids, let's pick
Money.
a number. Let's pick a number and say they're giving him $100,000. Okay? And they do that for 4 years. And now that young man graduates from college. But he's not in that 1/10 of 1% that can be an NBA player or to be an NFL player. He's not there. Have we impacted his life enough that he's ready to go? Right. Is he ready to go work in a bank? Is he ready to go be a community liaison? Is he ready to be a kick-ass husband and a great father and a great mentor in his neighborhood? Or is he driven by these dollars? Because on top of the dollars, no kid in college is paying for any sneakers.
Yeah.
No kid in college who's playing is paying for any meals. They're not paying rent. So Matt, you just made $100,000 as a 19-year-old. Now you're 22, 23. Are you looking around for, well, when am I going to get, where's my stuff?
Yeah.
Where's my stuff? And have we done enough to educate them? And I would raise my hand and say, we haven't. And that's where I would say, Nick Saban, he gets it. This is not the college athletic experience that I signed up to provide.
If you could make a change, how would you regulate it? And do you think there's a problem that there's such a broad scope and broad brush on NIL? Like, for example, we have QB Rashada, I believe his name, recently former Florida quarterback recruit Jaden Rashada started a lawsuit against Florida coach Billy Napier after he failed an NIL deal. It was for a deal that supposedly was over 14 million, a lot of money. And it ended up falling through, whatever the case is. And now he's suing them. Like, the complexities that have to deal with NIL, what do you think we can do? What do you think the regulation side needs to happen on the regulation side?
Wow. I don't have like a steadfast answer. There are broad brushes.
Yeah.
One is financial literacy. We have to talk to these young men and young ladies, right? Young ladies,
Both.
About the tax implications of this money. We have to talk about also the idea of generational wealth and immediate, what they consider to be wealth. If these young guys are taking their money and going out and buying more sneakers, really?
Put it in something of value.
Right. So here's a couple of ideas, and I'm working on this. I'm not working every day on it, but I am working on this idea. I would like to provide all these young student athletes with a charitable wing of their NIL. What if they were to give 1% of their NIL earnings? What if they were to give that to a charity? I'm passionate about Coaches versus Cancer. Yeah. What if there was a wing of that called Players versus Cancer, Student Athletes versus Cancer? Yeah. Now I can turn around to the public and say, hey, I'm giving to charity. Yeah. I'm not just taking, I'm giving.
Giving back.
I'm giving. I would like to also see us tie some of this to not a degree. No one can get you your degree. And no one's to tell you like it has to be in this order. 1 year, 2 year. You know, there's going to be curves. Everybody has a different path. Great way to put it. So if I put some of your money in trust, right, and you get to year 3 of college, okay, we're going to double your money. If graduation, there's going to be a bonus for graduation. And I'm not saying it has to be graduation from school A. Yeah. If you make a change, which they're allowed to do with the transfer portal, and they graduate from B, but there's a bonus for graduation.
Yeah. Should there be, you think, stoppage at associates and then another checkpoint? Maybe do some checkpoints.
Could be. I don't have it all that thought out, but I would start with this though. I would start with every school out there. It's your responsibility to make sure that the young people in your care are financially literate, and they're not.
It's very important. I mean, even in high school, they just recently, I mean, when I was a high school student, I graduated 2016. I think it was my senior year or junior year, they introduced financial literacy as a class, it was the first time they introduced it. So like, I mean, I guess we might be seeing some of that come in now, hopefully much more, because even then it wasn't really like substantial, if I had to say. So I think
you got to put teeth in it. It just can't be.
Yeah. Brush over.
So, for instance, University of Michigan, which does nothing halfway. Mm-hmm. Everything there is done extraordinarily well.
Top to bottom.
Nutrition, strength and conditioning, and post-career management. Like, what are we thinking about? Yeah. They have a hard and fast program, but here's what happens. You walk in, Matt, you come in, we check you in. Okay, you're going to take this course, and it may be a 2-hour job on a Monday night. Yeah. All right, you took care of that. Bam. And guess what? Once I get through this, you got 4 checks. Mm-hmm. Here you go. Here's $1,500. Yeah. Now go over there. Now, if some dude wants to say, yeah, I'd rather stay in my room and play Madden or something like that. Okay, he didn't get a check. So when you got your check for $1,500, maybe he got a check for $500 because you only went to 3 of the events. Here's my man went to 5. Yeah.
You reward.
Right. In the real world, you get rewarded. The best salesman gets the best commission.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So why not?
Yeah. I like that.
Thought.
So we also have high school players with NIL, and that's even more concerning in my opinion. So we have over half of all states that allow some type of NIL now for high school students or athletes. But it was reported that in March of 2024 that only 33 out of 400,000 high school student athletes have actually entered an NIL agreement. How do you think it's going to affect high schoolers going forward with the money aspect, and also just in like we only have 33 out of 400,000 high school students? Is there going to be, do you think, a growth in that number?
I think there's going to be a growth in the high school ranks. We just have to take the messages as we've watched them. So I'm going to use women's basketball, right? So women's basketball, the best players got onto the biggest stage, and everybody could say from our area, the young lady Elena Deladon, the UConn, remarkable success. And you can name those players, Tarazi and Sue Bird and Brianna Stewart. You can name them. And then, so the pro league takes off. You know, not great financially, and obviously
we've heard
with
talks.
what's going on with travel and everything like that. But then the explosion with Caitlin Clark
Now.
and these college players. So now we're thinking about, well, what was their NIL like? So if that's the progression, it went from the best of the best, it went to a pro league, it went to the college ranks. So I think that the high school recruitment, the high school recruitment in terms of these players will be featured on NIL deals, it's there. And again, education, education, education. But in that situation,
It's hard.
exactly,
They're young.
because they're kids.
Yeah.
So who is it that's going to be around them?
Yeah.
You know, are they blessed like you and I've talked about with a mom
Great
and dad,
foundation.
a parent? It could be a grandmom, could be a caring uncle. It's when we get into, I got this guy, I'm representing this guy. Well, he's 15 years old,
Yeah, he's young.
right?
And who has control?
Exactly right.
And
exactly
does he have a
right.
good, stable situation around
Right.
him to
And
guide him in the right direction?
And I think the whole thing, going back to our original part of our conversation, is what's your foundation?
Yeah.
What's your foundation? And your foundation is not a ball, and it's not a deal. By the way, it's not. Well, I got a deal with the local pizza place. Okay, that's not foundational. Let's make sure that we create a foundation before we put adulthood on these young players.
Yeah. And that's very, very concerning thing to be concerned with. At least in my opinion, I believe like these high schoolers, it's going to be a tough situation to navigate for sure.
Yes.
And we also have players like Reggie Bush, who was a Heisman winner. He was stripped of that award and shamed from the whole situation. And USC, you know, they were stripped from their national championship. It was a whole ordeal. What do you think of that situation? So, personally, I think it was messed up how it all occurred, and now with the NIL, everything that happened, and how Reggie Bush ended up getting his Heisman back. But it's not just for USC and Reggie Bush, but also all these other players that had similar ordeals. What do you think of those situations?
Pandora's box. We've opened it. I mean, it really is. If the news of the recent days is that they're going to get a settlement, the players who are pre-NIL, right? Pre-NIL. And then you compound, well, the players who are pre-NIL who maybe made a decision that was what they thought was in their best interest at that time, and they were penalized, similar to Reggie Bush. Yeah. Right, that's a high-profile one.
Yeah, very.
But there are players out there who lost games, in some cases lost scholarships because they said, "Well, you broke this rule." Yeah. So now we're going back and we're re-legislating in a way. I don't know where it ends. So where does it end? And
it changes those kids' whole life trajectory.
Exactly.
You take away their college education, their scholarships.
Right.
You know, that changes their whole life.
Right. So you have you have a guy. You're way too young, but the best college basketball player of all time is Pete Maravich.
I agree.
Right. He's the best of all time.
No, there was no three-pointer.
No three-pointer.
Scoring like 40 a game.
Right. And getting all those points. It was his time. You know, I've heard Charles Barkley on that great TNT Inside the NBA show.
Great show.
Saying, I was before my time. Yeah. But guess what? Before Barkley, there was Elgin Baylor. Yeah. And so are we all just like, what is our time? And how do we maximize this? So that's why I say Pandora's box. You open it up and keep going back and saying, well, he would have done this or he could have done that, and these were his earnings. what I really feel, Matt, is that we're headed to pay for play.
Yeah.
We're headed to salary caps. And then for you and I, is that still college athletics?
Yeah. No,
Or
it's
is it
professional on a different
is
level.
is it the club system that is in
Yeah.
Europe, in
Oh,
soccer, in basketball, the club system that is there?
yeah.
You know, you're representing the club,
Yeah.
and if you wish to get an education, then you go pay for your education. Is
Yeah.
that what we're going to come to?
Do you like that?
I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it because, and I'm not a cliche guy, but the name on the front of the jersey
Yeah.
has to matter more than the name
Name
on
of
the
the
back of
back.
the jersey.
I agree.
And it has to matter more than the name on the check,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The name on the
That's true.
NIL check.
Yeah.
It has to matter that your team wins or loses. And guess what? When the name on the front matters, that impacts thousands and thousands and
People.
thousands and thousands
From
of people.
players to fans to staff to everything.
I mean, think about it. Like where we are right now.
Yeah.
Where we are right now, there's not a person, and I don't care, North Philly, South Jersey, the Jersey Shore.
Doesn't matter.
There's
The
not a
greater area.
person in our area that isn't jacked up over the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah.
You can't, because they wear Philadelphia on their jersey.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
You go to Wawa, go Phils. You know what I mean?
That's
it's
it.
even it's football season, go Eagles. It doesn't matter.
That's
We
it.
bleed our Philadelphia sports.
That's absolutely.
That's one of the truest things. And yeah, I agree. It's tough because when you're playing for the name on the front of the jersey, like we talked about, it teaches you a lot. You all come together for this common goal.
Yes.
Start playing for the name on the back. You don't always see that coming together like you would when people play
You
for
know
the front
what?
of the jersey.
If that's the case, then get really good at an individual sport.
Yeah.
Right. Get really good at an individual sport, and we're challenged. This is a challenging time, but it's not a time to throw up our hands.
No.
It's a time to say, okay, change is coming. Not all change is good. Not all change is bad.
But understand
But
the effects.
Yes. The bottom line is, you know what? This isn't about this one guy.
Yeah.
This is about the game, the universities, and can the system be better? Yeah. Let's work to make it better. Let's not blow it up.
Yeah, slow but surely.
Yes.
Slow but
perfect
surely.
way.
I think that's the best way. One day at a time, and that's how I try to look at life in general. I think one day at
Absolutely.
a time is the best way to look at things. So now you talked about the WNBA with players like Caitlin Clark. Now we have Caitlin Clark going to WNBA. We have college, women's basketball college, really blowing up. What do you think about the WNBA? Do you see growth? Do you see the college women's basketball landscape growing? The marketing of Caitlin Clark was unlike any other I've seen. So what do you think of that?
Well, I think it's the last three letters, if that makes sense. NBA.
Yeah.
So now we're going to just have this conversation. Say to you, the NBA, that brand is internationally known.
Across the world.
They didn't shortcut anything. China, check. Yao Ming. They put the players back in the Olympics.
Yeah.
So it's an international sport. X percentage, and you're probably better at those numbers than I am, but X percentage of the players are now international stars coming to play in the NBA.
It's true. Luka, Jokic, the biggest stars now.
Right. They did a draft lottery and they got everybody's attention. And they did all of these things and they didn't make a mistake.
Yeah.
So when they went and said WNBA, and where are we going to put it on our calendar? And they're going to put it late spring, summer.
May, summer.
And that it's just a stroke of genius.
Yeah.
Like
Doesn't interfere.
I think that genius comes in a lot of forms, but at the end of the day, when we all recap his life, David Stern for coming up with this WNBA ingenious. Fast forward.
Yeah. Now, 2024.
Corporate world, marketing, the schools themselves, the NCAA schools, recognizing that we can promote these young ladies at a time then where we need it. Like
Yeah.
society needs to be lifted up,
Yeah.
and they lift up a whole uh, gender through women's basketball. I think it's fascinating. Now, you know, way in the background, is I've always maintained an interest in women's basketball because my wife was on national championship teams at Immaculata. She
Wow.
won 3 national championships when she was in college. We met at a
3.
girls' basketball camp. So I've always had this interest. My best friend for 50 years is Gino Oriema.
Okay.
When I was a varsity head coach in Norristown, Gino was the JV coach. We were together all the time. So to watch him lift up
Yeah.
the sport, be the best women's coach of all time, be in the Hall of Fame,
That's amazing.
and then to kind of track all these Philadelphians who are very significant in women's basketball, and Dawn Staley and Renee
Huge.
Portland. They just put the game on their shoulders. So now to see the country embrace it, and to see the way that young lady, not only Caitlin Clark, how she was marketed, but how she handled it.
Yeah. She was very good.
She was very
Professional. Everything was very,
good.
very, very good.
Everything
I agree.
was on
Yeah.
point, and
Yeah.
and nothing, because we can pick it out, right? We know when you're faking.
Yeah. Yeah.
She didn't fake any of that. She
Yeah.
was legit
Authentic.
star.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. Now, when it comes to coaching players and developing players, whether it be shooting, whatever the case is, developing the skills and overall of these players, what do you look for in a player?
Mhm.
And how do you go about that process?
Great question. So I think any of us could go to a game and we could pick out and say, well, he's the best player.
Yeah.
My question was always, is he the best person?
Mm-hmm.
So if someone was to come to me and have all the answers, or someone in his circle has all the answers, that's not for me.
Turn off.
But if we have a player who's committed to this, respect of the game, and you study that, how do they respect the referees? They don't have to agree with the referees, but do they respect them? Do they respect coaching?
Respect their teammates.
Do they respect their
Staff,
teammates?
everybody.
The opponents?
Yeah.
Right? Too much where, like, no, you think this is about you.
Yeah.
And in this game of basketball, it's about us.
Yeah.
And it's not just
Bigger
about
than
you.
basketball. To be
Exactly.
honest.
So I wanted to see if they respected the game
Mhm.
and all that surrounded the game. The second thing that I was looking for was a willingness for daily improvement. I think it's easy to say I would like to, but you have to have the willingness to put in that work. for daily improvement.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is looking for not unblemished. None of us is unblemished.
Yeah.
But making sure that the warts and the distractions are minimized.
Yeah.
If we could do that, if we can minimize the distractions, and you're committed to improvement,
It's positive
then-
expectation.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I would
1% better every day.
I would reinforce this with everybody. We're big today, Matt, in telling everybody communicate. Make sure I know what you're looking for, what you need.
Yeah.
And if I can, I'm going to fulfill that. That's great, right? But one of the biggest misses that we're having right now in our communication ability is that we do not have a bunch of great listeners.
Yeah.
I want a player who was a great listener, because I had information. It wasn't always right. I wasn't always right. But please just listen, and then we can discuss. But if you're preparing what you're going to say or how you're going to respond, you're not really listening. You're hearing me, but you're not listening to me.
Yeah. I think that's a great point. Listening.
Yes.
It's a skill that's been lost. Everybody talks about communicating well, and you can communicate, but part of communication is listening.
Amen.
I like that. So next overall, who's the most skilled player? And it doesn't have to be necessarily skill like best shooter, whatever the case is. It could be hard work, skill traits that you had the honor to coach, or some of the best players in those aspects.
Well, I have a story here that I try to tell everywhere that I go.
Well, please tell it here.
Obviously, the best players are the players that I've had that were good enough to be in the NBA, to win championships. And you mentioned some of them in the introduction, in Jameer and Langston Galloway and DeAndre Bembry and Delonte West and and all of these guys have had a chance to play at least international professional basketball players. But I tell everybody the teacher, the best teacher that I met while he was a player was 15 years old. His name's Johnny Custer.
Wow.
He was a sophomore in high school, and I cut him from the team. 5'4". He was too small.
Like me.
Right, too small. He's
I
not.
played ball, but eventually you're
Right.
not going to go too far.
Right. So you're not going to win a championship.
Yeah.
He came back that year, sophomore in high school, said, I want to be a team manager. I said, sure. Thinking this will fall off.
Yeah.
He came back as a junior in high school. He made the JV team. Came back as a senior, made the varsity. Voted captain by his teammates.
That's awesome.
Made second team All Catholic in the Philadelphia in a really, that's a significant
accomplishment.
Right, yeah,
Achievement.
accomplishment. Team made the playoffs, played at the Palestra, high school player playing at the Palestra. Got a college scholarship to play basketball. So everywhere I go, I tell this story.
That's amazing.
I said,
great story.
He taught me because you pursue your dreams. And so I was giving a talk to some bankers in Delaware County. A person came out of the audience and said, I work with Johnny Custer. Would you mind if I tell him that you tell his story? I said, please do. And the phone rang in my office, and it was Johnny Cuss. And Johnny said, Coach, thanks for telling my story. I said, John, I don't get your story. I don't get it. It sounds good.
Yeah.
You know, it's Rocky.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be Rocky.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to beat the odds. I said, but what? What made you at 15 years old come back
Do that.
to want to be
Team manager and keep
team
on.
manager?
Yeah.
He said, when I was a kid, 4th grade, in the schoolyard, I would tell everybody I was going to play for the local high school team. And not you, meaning me,
Yeah.
nor anybody else would deny me my dream.
That's amazing.
The second thing that I understood was the guys you kept had something that you liked that I didn't have. I wanted to be there every day to study them.
At 15 years old.
Yes, at 15. I said, John,
Ahead of his time.
that's a lot more powerful than your story.
Yeah.
And he made me pledge this. He said, Coach, wherever you go, if you think my story can help one person or one organization, would you promise me you'll still tell my story? And I said, that's a done deal. He finished the conversation with one word, cool, and he hung up.
I love that.
So
15 years old,
right.
ahead of his time.
So when people say
Mature.
the best player,
Yeah.
I changed that word, Matt, to be honest with you, to be the best teacher.
Yeah.
Because I believe that every day we can be a student and every day we can be a teacher. Yeah. And it doesn't matter your age or your life experiences or what you drive or your W-2 or anything like that. You can learn every day and you can teach every day. And that young man, he taught me, don't give up on your dreams. Don't give up on your dreams. And work ethic can set you apart.
There's a quote, the best teacher is the best student.
There we go.
Yeah. And it fits this perfectly.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and that's an amazing story. 15 years old. I still can't believe that. That's a level of maturity, a level of hard work, determination. That's something people sometimes quit at the first obstacle.
No question.
And they need some reinforcement. I hope this story helps people out there
That would be
with just as much.
If it just helps one
Yeah,
person.
one person.
If it
That's
helps
all.
one person.
Yeah, true. So now transitioning with that great story to your family.
Mm-hmm.
You have 2 kids that play that coach basketball. Tell me about your kids, and one coaches at Penn State, the other one coaches Bryan University. Tell me about how that happened and what did they take after you? Obviously, they did a little bit, but did they take, your coaching style, whatever the case is,
That's a great,
going into Bryan University and Penn State?
And my daughter's a school teacher.
Your daughter's a school teacher.
So
All teachers,
she's
some way or form.
She's teaching. she's coaching,
Yeah.
her fourth grade class in Bridgeport, PA. But both of my sons went about this on a different path. So my son Jim, who's assistant coach at Penn State, when he was 14 or 15 years old, very driven, very highly competitive. Played soccer and basketball at St. Joe's Prep, then went to Scranton, and then eventually graduated from Dickinson. Fierce competitor, fierce competitor. He wanted nothing to do with coaching. He did love college athletics. So he was thinking more along the lines of administration. He got an opportunity to go Division III and coach at Dickinson and Randolph-Macon, and then moved from Randolph-Macon to Robert Morris, moved from Robert Morris to Rutgers, went to VCU, and then to Penn State. He is the same as he was as a player. He's relentless in terms of recruiting, game preparation, very meticulous in how he prepares. The thing that I'm proudest of with him is that he has kept a balanced family. He has three daughters. He's a very engaged father. His wife was she was a great student athlete at Towson in field hockey, almost a national level player in field hockey. So he's driven, very, very driven. And he's adamant about not getting anything because of his last name being Martelli.
He wants to earn it.
He earns it.
That's awesome.
My son Philip is a fabulous, fabulous teammate. So he wasn't the best player. He wasn't a player that played at all at St. Joe's. He was on the team because I wanted him to be close so I could teach him how to teach and coach. He went and worked in the summers, got in his car, drove to camps, worked camps, slept on couches, did it, scratched his way up, and his path was Central Connecticut and Niagara and Delaware, and he worked in the G League, came back to work for me for a year, then went to Bryant, and he's fabulous with people. So if you feel like you're on the outside, in some school situations, the people in the cafeteria might feel like, well, you don't care about our schedule. Like, why should we care about you? Or the people that run your building, like, hey, who do I go to when the heat's off, or whatever it would be. He connected with all of those people to make sure that they know, yeah, I might be the coach, but I can only do this with you. I don't want any of you thinking you're doing this for me. We're doing this with each other. And he's very conscious of scheduling, making sure that people know where they have to be, not putting surprises on people, and his demeanor on the sideline, very, very calm. I've never seen him coach a practice. I'm looking forward to that in my quote-unquote retirement here. Yeah. I am looking forward to go out and watching how he conducts a practice, not what he teaches,
how he conducts it.
But how he conducts it. And that's what I always focused on with both of them. I was much more interested in who they were as people developing than what they were teaching in terms of basketball.
Yeah.
So
there's a line in which you have to balance.
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting. Now, you have both sons. Do they ever call you and ask you for advice?
Yeah, that's often.
Are they like, Dad, I need some advice? Can we create a game plan together? Whatever the case is it ever like that? Or
no, not X's and O's. Not X's and O's. It's more situational. So at Bryant this year, Bryant has no NIL money.
Yeah.
And he had 3 or 4 guys, and I just said, we would talk out the scenario. How are you going to approach them? My suggestion is that you have a relationship of trust, and say to them, ask them, if there's a dollar figure that you have to have, and I know we can't get there, then so be it.
Yeah.
But I would like you to trust me that I'll get you every dollar that I can.
Yeah.
I'm not going to shortcut you. I'm not going to shortcut you. And let's be creative in ways that we could do it. Maybe you could go run a camp at the local community center.
Think outside the box a little bit.
Right. Think of ways that we can help each other. With both of them, I've been, and it sounds crazy for a coach, but I will talk to them about how they deport themselves with referees.
Yeah.
Because you don't want people to be running around saying, well, he's a
Yeah.
wild card, he's out of control, or anything like that. So I'd like to I love those situations.
Yeah.
And then when I watch their teams play after the games, I might ask them a question. Hey,
How did it go?
in that situation, what were you thinking? Not, you should have been thinking this. Like, that's not teaching.
Yeah.
You know, that's dictating. And I'm not going to dictate their careers. They have to live their careers. And if they make a left turn, I'm going to suggest, hey, that's not who you want to be.
Yeah.
That's not
Advice.
how you want to be known.
Yeah. I like that. Now, we talked about the NBA earlier. We talked about how genius the NBA was and everything with that. Did you ever want to attack the NBA and be, on a professional level coaching? Is that a dream of yours, or
Yeah, that's
no?
And obviously with the Philadelphia connection with
Yeah.
coaching in the NBA, all of these guys came through Philadelphia at some point in time. The Chuck Daly's and Jack Ramsey's and Jim Lynams and Jim O'Brien and Don Casey. All of these guys came through Philadelphia, and in many cases it's a close community.
Yeah.
But here's what got me. I can say for probably 22 of the 24 years, when I would go home from a game, could be a 2:00 game, could be a 8:00 game at night, I couldn't sleep. And it wasn't winning or losing. It was just the excitement had built up and I
Adrenaline.
couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
So I would say to myself, well, if I do this and we're good and we're going to play 35 times a year, how in the world would this work in the NBA if you do it 100 times a year? I'll
Big scale.
I don't look so good now, turning 70, but
Look just fine with me.
the idea of going 100 nights a year. So I say it this way, and I mean it this way. I think that, yes, it's coaching, and you might say it's coaching basketball, but I would compare it to baseball and softball. Yeah, they have 3 outs and
Different game.
but it's a different game. And in that world, and I'm just so fascinated after having been with Juwan Howard for 5 years and to look at how they see that game.
Totally different.
And the 76ers, to their credit, have always been open, being able to go watch practice, whether Doug Collins was the coach, whether Brett Brown was the coach, Nick Nurse was the coach. You could watch practice, and it's just different. It's a different game. So there's part of me that would say, I wonder if this stuff would work. And then there's another part that's saying, you know what, I appreciate people that can sing, but I don't want to go out on stage and try to sing.
You don't want to be
Right.
perform, yeah. Now, what are some of your favorite? Do you watch it? The
I
NBA
watched the
often?
playoffs.
Playoffs.
I watched the playoffs. I think this is I don't even think it's close in terms of the level of basketball. Now, the excitement of the NCAA tournament,
Yeah.
because it's one and done.
Yeah.
But the playoffs to me are these players, and it's they're playing the same team 2 nights later, and to see the adjustments, and to see the intensity,
7-game series.
and then to see these the home crowds. So I'm fascinated by the playoffs. During the regular season, not so much. I don't watch.
I agree.
I don't,
100%.
I don't want, and it's not knocking them. It's just
Yeah.
my schedule.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, but
There's nothing like the playoffs.
the playoffs.
It doesn't matter
No.
what sport, to be
Yes.
honest. So, what are some of your favorite players you've seen these playoffs? What are some of your favorite teams? Anyone specific?
I'm fascinated with Steph Curry
Yeah,
because I think he changed the game.
yeah.
You
Did
know, he certainly changed the game. I'm fascinated with these teams that are playing smaller, like the Celtics play small. If Al Horford is your big man and he's stepping away, he's
for
older,
3? Yeah,
and he's stepping away from the basket. I'm fascinated by the differences. The Joker,
yeah,
like how
yeah.
could be. Look,
I
call it
know.
the way it is, Matt. I'm going to ask you straight up. If you lined up on the baseline against the Joker, do you think you could beat him to the other end of the court?
It's crazy, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
But yet he's brilliant.
but he's amazing.
The brilliance.
IQ is off the
No,
charts.
the brilliance of the players. I just that. So in Philadelphia, Embiid, like how does a guy that big,
That big, move so well.
and yet he's had this string of injuries.
Yeah.
Is there something there? That's the kind
Yeah.
of stuff that I anxiously watch, and I love when they're going into cities, Denver last year, and you see the excitement of that whole city for a championship pursuit.
They rally around.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Minnesota.
Reminds you of the Philly.
Yes,
Philly
yes,
years.
yes,
Reminds you of
yes,
that
yes. That's
passion.
exactly it. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you spent 24 years coaching at St. Joseph's, right? Here in Philadelphia. What legacy did you or do you hope to leave? Not just at St. Joe's, but just in the Philadelphia area, in the world.
I hope that on a personal level, hope that, and this is impossible, but it's what I would hope. I would hope that everybody that came in contact with me in some way, shape, or form is a little bit better for having
Yeah.
having
Been in contact.
had me in their life for the briefest of times.
Yeah. Just make an impact.
That's one. I just want to make a difference. It's the same thing as to where I am today. Like I hope that I made a difference. I hope that I made a difference. If I did not, or if I in some way, shape, or form hurt you,
Yeah.
please believe that it was not
Intentional.
It was unintentional, and I apologize for that. And but the legacy for me would be, and I bring this story up. My father was viewing in the church, and there were, I don't know, 1,100, 1,200 people coming through, and if one person said it, 100 people said it. If 100 people said it, then all 1,100 people said to me, "Dad was a good man."
That's amazing.
And if that is my legacy,
yeah,
that's worth living for.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
amazing. I like that. That's a good one. So, outside of basketball, what are some of your other passions?
Family.
Family.
I'm crazy about my family, and I recognize that anything and everything that I've achieved has been because of their sacrifices. So, I like going to t-ball games, and I like little league, and my granddaughters. Like I revel in the fact that they do great in school, and I want to hear about what they're doing in school. 4 of my grandchildren live in the Philadelphia area. 3 live in State College, and 3 live in Rhode Island. I'm an absolute certifiable. I'm a lunatic about the Phillies. A lunatic about the Phillies. I just think when you have a bunch of what from the outside looks like a bunch of great guys, they're easy to root for, and to see this city rally behind this team, I'm fascinated by that. I know nothing, absolutely, positively nothing about music. I never owned a record. I never owned a record player or a stereo or, but I'm fascinated by a guy like Springsteen because if if everybody worked at their job like he works at his job every single night, a great country would be greater still, and a great city would be greater still. But I guess that passions for me start with family, and
It's a great passion to have.
yes.
So you had a legendary career. What's next for Phil Martelli?
I want to be a painter.
You want to be a painter.
Only in this way. I see a wall in front of me, a blank wall. And over here, if I'm good enough, I'd like to do TV. And, if somebody said to me 5 or 6 or 7 games, that would be a terrific thing. On the other side of this wall, I'm developing a program for mentorship for young coaches. And I want to come in, and I don't want to talk to you about zone or man to man. I want to talk to you about, hey, how are you going to handle your podcast? Are you going to go on podcast? Are you comfortable? What messages are you going to deliver? How are you going to handle the department-wide meetings? How are you going to handle academics? And I'm just going to ask you questions. I just want to talk and ask questions, not say this is the way you should do it. But here's some things to think about. You're going to get involved in charity in your community. Okay? What charity? And are you going to do it only through money? Or are you going to do it through talks? Mm-hmm. And then, so those are the two edges. In the middle, I'm changing this. This is not what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do. Right? Yeah. Subtle change of words, but this is what I am going to do. I want to go into corporations, and I want to talk to their CEOs, and I want to talk to their sales forces, and I want to talk to their department heads, and I want to suggest to them that your title may be CEO. Your title might be Chief of Human Resources. My title was coach, but what we do is the exact same thing. We're both interested in people and in helping people pursue greatness individually and collectively. So that's the same, right? So if you're working at the library, Philadelphia Library, and you're the head librarian, the people under you are chasing greatness, right? They want to be the best. So I would like to go into every corporation in Philadelphia and spread that message. And then an offshoot on this, and this has me every day processing this. I want to go into every school district that I can drive to. And I get it, it's the end of the school year, but in August, September, and I want to go in and I want to talk to those teachers. I want to talk to those principals. And I want to suggest to them that in every walk of life, somebody has to be the head coach. So you're not a 4th grade teacher. You're the head coach of that class. And here's some things that I learned, like real relationships, organization, energizing, the power of thank you, teacher and student every single day. So here's some stories that would relate. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying this is what happened to me, and I want to make a difference, right?
Make a change, make a difference.
I want to make a difference in schools. I want to make a difference in communities. I want to make a difference in corporate Delaware Valley. That's next. It's a lot, but
that's a lot, but that's awesome. We have a saying that we say on social media: the only thing that matters is what we do next. So it's it's not about what you've done, but it's about what you do next. And I love that.
Yes.
So is there anything else you want to wrap up with?
I just want to thank you.
Thank you.
I was so excited to get this invitation and to spend time and quality time.
Yeah.
You have a way about you. And
thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You're on that success train. So I'm glad that I got on with you.
Thank you. Well, with that said, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and thank you for joining me today.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Thank you, guys.